Good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Fuller. The following message was delivered by Reverend Rita Capezzi on May 16th, 2021 at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Mankato. That's in Minnesota. I've made some adaptations for today's service. I stumbled across this sermon on Monday and was amazed to find it addressed a response to a survey that we did asking for congregational input on Sunday services last spring. One of the responses that we got on the survey was, with such a variety of religious beliefs at Buff, what are we actually worshiping? Or are we? Or are we supposed to? So I think that this sermon answers that question. Plus, it includes references to covenant, which we talked about in our new member in-gathering this morning, and it references inclusion. And we just acknowledged Transgender Day of Remembrance and Resilience. It's always sad to me when people don't know about Berean UU Fellowship or about our religion. And maybe that's something to do with how most UUs inhabit Unitarian Universalism. They are within UU. So let's get one thing on the table right away. Unitarian Universalism is a religion. For some of us, it's a no-brainer. Calling UUism a religion is fine and comfortable for some of us. And for some of us, the use of that word and all that it brings rubs the wrong way. It smacks of superstition, emotionalism, and the irrational. It reminds too much of the traditions that felt or feel toxic. I know. However, it should strike all of us here that here we are gathered on a Sunday morning inside a church-like space, participating in rituals, listening for life's meaning. This is not an academic lecture. So what is religion then? This morning, Reverend Capezzi offers one answer. And as UUs, or anyone seeking, I know you will seek further. First, as Unitarian Universalists, we don't get bogged down at the start with a single belief, a single ritual, specific language, or a doctrine. All the things that we might associate with other religions that we know. We do not profess one way, but make no mistake, as a religion, we are asking questions and seeking answers about the ultimate meaning and purpose of life. We are here or there because we are of course, for starters. We are asking questions and seeking answers about the ultimate meaning and purpose of life. We're looking for the more beyond, the more that underlies our everyday experience. And that's all that religion is, really, at its base. The search for more beyond ourselves. And here, we look for those answers together in community, knowing that meaning and purpose emerge in the context of relationship, in the context of mutual sharing and exploration. Our UU religion has origins. and deep, complex roots in two strands of early Christianity. The quilts that you see on the walls of the sanctuary were created by Gloria Weberg and also B. Takeuchi, and they represent the history of Unitarian and Universalism and Unitarian Universalism as they merged in 1963. The two strands of Christianity have to do with, first, the presumed nature of God. Is God a Trinity or a unity or something else? And second, the strands of Christianity have to do with the possibility of salvation. Are we all saved, or are some of us damned by this God to eternal hellfire? In defining the relationship between Unitarians and Universalists in the 19th century, Thomas Appleton quipped, "Universalists think that God is too good to damn them, and Unitarians think they are too good to be damned." Unitarians are always interrogating the received truth. They're seeking more, higher, underlying truth. Despite being mocked and ostracized through the centuries, UUs have searched. For example, seeking a religion of spirit rather than divine entity, Cyrus Bartle, a transcendentalist, asserted, "I spell my God with 2 O's, and I spell my devil with no D." Now, there's a risk in Unitarian skepticism. It can create arrogance, especially when one decides enough. Let me put down my stake, call this the end. All right, this is the truth, everybody. This is the truth. All right, that's an arrogance of skepticism that could exist in Unitarianism. On the other hand, Unitarian skepticism can also lead to a deep humility, believing that there is always more out ahead, more behind, more to discover, more to know, to use, to make one's picture of reality larger, more encompassing, but never complete. How could complete even be a thing in an unfinished reality where truth is not set? Eventually, a strand of Unitarianism led to the emergence of humanism, with the understanding that a person can be good with or without God. That came from Unitarianism. The emergence of humanism, the understanding that a person can be good with or without God. We're going to come back to that again with Universalism. Universalists also confront tendencies in Christianity, specifically doctrines declaring the inherent evilness and depravity of human beings, debased and hardly worth salvation. This quotation, widely attributed to 19th century Universalist John Murray, makes this point. Give the people blanketed with a decaying and crumbling Calvinism something of your new vision. Give them not hell, but hope and courage. Don't push them into deeper theological despair. Preach the kindness and everlasting love of God. Here's another 19th century story challenging the impossibility of being good without the threat of damnation. A theologically conservative skeptic interrogated Universalist minister Hosea Ballou about the ways that universalism could lead to the moral corruption of society. "Brother Ballou," he said, "so if I were a universalist and feared not the fires of hell, I could hit you over the head, steal your horse and your saddle, and ride away, and I'd still go to heaven." Ballou responded, "Sir, if you were a universalist, That idea would never even occur to you. Universalism can devolve into sentimentality, especially if we do not hold each other responsible for wrongs we do in the world, for the hurt and harm we cause others. And yet the universe is always creatively unfolding life itself, the goodness of green leaves photosynthesizing, the goodness of birdsong, the goodness of microbes nourishing the earth. We participate in this goodness when we too do goodness, when we love, when we care, when we help a neighbor we don't know, when we work for liberation and justice for those whose lives are different than our own. But this is not to say that the universe is all sweetness and light. Cosmic cataclysm created the sun and the earth. Diseases emerge, cause us pain, suffering, death. And we participate in this cataclysm, the sin and death, when we hate, when we neglect, when we judge, when we push aside some as unworthy. So we are all enfolded, one with the possibility for evil, and two, within the possibility of goodness. And we each, of course, do both. We know we do. We do evil, we do good. We do evil, we do good. But we choose how we will live. We choose to see ourselves full of loving kindness, peaceful and at ease, whole, so that we may feel for others. There is potential in all of us to create goodness because there is a sacred within us, between us and beyond us. So Unitarian Universalists refer to this religion, our faith tradition, as a living tradition, as Catherine mentioned in the Transgender Day of Remembrance message. As such, our living tradition is defined by plurality, or many ideas, and transformation, change, by experiences and ideas that emerge from a confluence of possibilities, unconstrained by belief or doctrine. It's an ever-changing faith, which can be exciting, but also exasperating, deeply troubling, and also richly fulfilling. In our religion, multiple stories converge within us and between us, both tapping in to that larger beyond and also co-creating that beyond, that more, that mystery that we can't always name. Some of us can hold the tensions of prior faith traditions more easily than others, retaining some of what we already believe and also making room for that which we do not yet know. Christian UU, Jewish UU, pagan UU, Muslim UU, these are not impossibilities. I think they even live in this very room right now, today, even if they're nothing at all like our own personal experience. My personal experience. We can struggle our way to realizing that how we see the world is not the whole world, not all of the reality that's available and lived by others. Our faith tradition exists within the contrast between our histories and our desires to make a space for the sacred in our lives, a sacred that's always behind our grasp. Now, you might have to redefine sacred if that feels too churchy for you. You might have to say more fully human or more ethical. But Unitarian Universalism obligates you to redefine, to make a translation so that you can be in relationship with those in this congregation who name that more differently than you do. Anyone who says UUs can believe anything they want does not understand our tradition. Thank you. Anyone who says UUs can believe anything they want, who's heard that? UUs can believe anything they want, does not understand our tradition. Believing is a separate thing from how we live with each other, with those we don't know, with compassion and respect, while acknowledging the views about life that we disagree with. That's you. Change and transformation inform the values underlying the principles we hold, including the possibility of new principles. Thank you, Living Tradition. As UUs, we affirm a set of principles on the wall here, currently numbered at 7. These are not beliefs, though. They're agreements for how we'll act toward each other and what we will work for in our world. And because these are not beliefs, we can't assume them. We have to bring them into being to create the conditions of justice, equity, and compassion that we claim to care about. We have to become more loving toward and accepting of one another. We must encourage each other toward spiritual growth if the search for truth and meaning is to move beyond confirmation bias, the thing that supports or confirms what we already believe. If we claim to work for peace, liberty, and justice for all, we must grow more inclusive in the process of decision-making. Thank you, democracy example, story for all ages. We must enhance our sense of interconnectedness, everyone and everything in relationship, no one and nothing left out or isolated or alone. Now, all of this is not to say that other religious traditions do not encourage or require personal transformation. But in so many other religious traditions, the change is prescribed. You will become more of this, as defined by our sacred texts and rituals, by our interpretive doctrine and tradition. Look how long it's taken some churches to say that queer people are people, worthy of God's love, and yet still question their inherent worth and dignity. For Unitarian Universalists, there's no one text. There's no single notion of the sacred. There's no presumption of absolute knowledge about anything. The very definition of science, held so dearly by us, means the unfolding of learning, the new that is not yet evident, the necessity of transforming the truth when we discover that we've been wrong in our previous conclusions. Now, this orientation is special to us, but it doesn't make us exceptional. There is a great risk in the idea of being exceptional, and UUs are certainly subject to it. The emphasis on transformation, however, is what makes us the exception in faith traditions. Transformation, freely accepted yet unknowable, subject to forces greater than ourselves and our human knowledge, forces we don't even know exist yet, and transformation as a source of hope rather than fear, of possibility rather than insecurity. We speak of changing ourselves, our institutions, our church, and we acknowledge it's normal that our congregations are different from one another, even as we strive for relationship across our differences. It's transformation that calls us as Unitarian Universalists. We can open our minds humbly and learn like good Unitarians. We can foster the liveliness of life and the good that sustains us in companionship like good Universalists, because we are Unitarian Universalists. Emmylou Belcher said in her meditation, "The life that stretches between us." For this life, for the freedom we have to shape and pursue our lives, we are grateful and rejoice. We are small as a denomination, as a fellowship. We are small but mighty. We think thoughts of justice and right, and we do the work to help make us so. We are Unitarian Universalists. So why wouldn't we want others to know about us? Why do we not, each and every one of us, shout this faith from the rooftops? Our religion opens us to the possibility that we are all ever-changing light. Let us shine our light brightly, opening and proclaim our saving faith to the world. Let us open to the sacred within us, between us, beyond us, reminding us that we are beloved, beloved, beloved. As you remember today and every day, that in this fellowship, in this religious community, in this faith that holds you tightly with possibility, you are loved, you are worthy, you are welcome, and you are needed. May you feel it so, may it be so, and may the people say together, Amen.
Thank you.